Welcome to the C4 Canucks Hockey Podcast.
Every week, they talk about the Vancouver Canucks with a fair amount of nonsense thrown in.
Sure, they're never the first with the news, nor the best connected, and definitely more off the rails than on.
But they've been talking puck the longest, and that counts for something, right?
So strap in for the longest running, best mediocre Canucks Hockey Podcast.
It's C4 with Chris and Anna.
Welcome to another episode of the C4 Canucks Hockey Podcast, one in which we don't know if you can listen through normal channels. Maybe you don't even know anything occurred outside of the fact that we were a little delayed on the last episode. But holy smokes, Anna, we'll get into it in a moment.
Yeah.
That, how are you doing?
I mean, I'm fine now. Both had a stressful start to the week. You in particular, because you were dealing with the back end, as it were. So...
And I mean, that could be interpreted many different ways. The podcast back end.
Yeah, I chose to remain a bit ambiguous about that. But yeah, it's been a time.
Yeah. If you are a new listener, like when I say new, you've just sort of picked up the show in the past year or so, you've probably not been aware of some of the struggles we've had probably in the last 2-3 years.
Yeah.
With our hosting arrangements. And I mean, not so much the Anna and Chris hosting, as in where our podcast lives on the great beyond the internet.
I mean, also, if you're like me, before you were on a podcast, maybe you didn't know about hosting.
Yeah, it's a thing. So if we rewind the clock all the way to the beginning times, when C4 came to be, podcast hosting was still very much an independent experience. Like I used Amazon AWS servers to host files that were linked to the CanucksHockeyBlog.com site. And in turn, I used a service called FeedBurner, which created just the podcast episodes into a feed that you could then subscribe to in all your different, podcast apps, like the big ones, Apple, Spotify, so on and so forth. Now, as the years went on, the podcast grew, and eventually we caught the eyes of a network, Overtime Media. And they approached us saying, hey, we'd like you to come on board with us. Mm-hmm. And yes, it will require some insertion of ads, but you get, some ad revenue. And there was a lot of positives.
Yeah,
so
that we did some ad reads even.
We did. Anna, Matt, and I, we all sort of, collectively decided this was sort of the way to go. And then, this, little pandemic thing hit. And suffice to say, the network had decided to cut costs. And a lowly little Canucks Hockey Podcast was one of the costs that they felt we were, not worth carrying. And so they did give us fair warning. So Overtime Media, they were great. As far as networks go and the hosting arrangement, they were great. But they said, hey, you got to go on your own. And so as I was looking into sort of what we were going to transition to, because we had never been in this world where, we had to go and find our own host in sort of the modern podcasting era. And we were sort of connected to another network, this network called the Full Press Coverage Network. Mm-hmm. And they seemed, the point of contact seemed straight up. Their focus was not on generating ad revenue from the podcasts themselves. It was completely optional. They would offer us free hosting, and in turn, our podcast would be part of their app, and they would have ad revenue around their app and their website. I'm like, okay, well, fine.
And at the beginning, they used to promote us a little bit, retweet us, put us out on their channels.
They certainly did, and you would hear us, we would say, hey, we're part of the such and such network. But then they just went, it was weird. They went kind of radio silent. And what was weird about it was that the point of contact had said, hey, everyone, this is just to all these sort of podcast hosts that were part of the network. We're going to be transitioning over to a new communication platform. They were on Slack, and they were going to another Slack channel, which seemed really odd. The problem was the link he provided me did not work. And so I emailed, no response. And I would just constantly ask. And it just got to the point where we were kind of never sure what was what. Mm-hmm. They, a year ago, changed their own host. They didn't tell us. All of a sudden, I'm getting email saying that you're on Podbean. And anyhow, Fast forward to a week and a bit ago, Podbean suspended their entire network account because they failed to pay their bill. Now, the point of contact at Full Press did reply to me, say, yeah, it was a credit card issue, it expired. Like, very reasonable explanation. But that was the only email I got. And it took, I started reaching out to Podbean directly. They were very limited in what they could help me with because they're like, oh, you're security, privacy. You're only a lowly user, not an admin, blah, blah, blah. And Anna had collectively made the decision, okay, we're done. We got to get out of this. We're going to go on our own. The problem was that, are we going to go on our own and have to start new? And this is why, again, you reach this point of the show and you're like, Chris, I have done nothing. You're showing up as you should be in my podcast app. What are you talking about? That was because of all of the work that I was able to go and do from, I can't remember. Was it Sunday night? I had said all of a sudden, and this was actually, I haven't mentioned this, by Podbean shutting down our entire back catalog, poof, gone.
Yeah.
13 years of shows. Peace be with you.
Yeah, that was kind of a shock.
So, long story short now, Podbean enabled the account briefly. I imported all of our shows that they had access to over to the new host. Our new host is one that Anna and I control. We pay for it. It's Transistor. And shout out to Transistor, their CEO, Justin Jackson. He actually provided me some ideas as to what we could do to fix things. He was like, we'd love to have you, but here's what you could probably do to get back online.
Yes.
And I tried those ideas. Like, shout out to him for giving me these ideas. And, their service, they were very communicative. They've explained things and Anna and I said, make switch. Now, that means if you're listening to the show, nothing has changed. Well, gosh darn it, all due to hard work. If you're listening to the show because you had to search for us again, I apologize. I have asked Full Press Coverage to change the setting that they control and they only control to create a redirect from our old podcast feed to our new one. Not all podcast applications, especially if those who create their own sort of database of shows, have a process to do an update without this 301 redirect on the original host side. So I'm going to ask for all of you who are listening right now, if you can, I would like you to shout from the rooftops to everyone and anyone, if they need to get the latest episodes, is to go to c4podcast.com and click the links there. The website has all the links to as many podcast applications that I have been able to update. And failing that, if like your favorite application isn't there, you can manually update the feed with the new one, and that's on c4podcast.com. So I'm going to ask if you can. You can tweet it out. You can, what is it? Blue Sky? I think it's Skeet it.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Just say it's post.
Post. On Reddit.
Skywriting?
Skywriting, yeah. You want to pay for a plane to pull a banner that says c4podcast.com lives? Have at it. We just need your help to get the news out there. But to all of you who haven't had any issues, I'm glad you're still here. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that was our fun 2 weeks.
Yeah, all that is to say, we're still here. We're still talking.
Yeah. I got desperate. Like, I published the last episode originally on Buy Me a Coffee, or what was it that we like to call it?
Buy Me a Pint.
And that was just because we needed to get it out. That episode's now since been put into the feed. It shows as if it came out like a week and a half late. But I needed to sort of trigger an update, so I figured that's the episode to do it. And then it doesn't have this, like you think of the sequencing. The sequencing's now correct. It's funny because a lot of what we had talked about in that episode was really old news. If you listened to it a week and a half after we had recorded.
Yeah.
We're talking about,
Things
hey,
change.
I wonder if Tocchet's coming back. He was gone like the day I'm publishing the episode.
Yeah. That was unfortunate, but yes, unfortunately beyond our control, but that won't be an issue in the future.
Oh, but one thing I do want to share is that in going on our own, while that gives us complete control, it also means that we are incurring a significant cost. Hosting a podcast is not cheap. just to put into perspective, every host charges in US dollars. It's a global market, and US tends to be the global dollar amount. So we have the exchange, and it's going to be close to $300. It is not cheap. So if there was ever a thought where you're like, hey, you know what, I wouldn't mind supporting the show, getting access to C4 Off the Rails, which is all caught up as well, because I had all this plenty podcast time on my hands. You can go to buymeacoffee.com/C4 podcast. You can throw a few bucks our way. You can support us monthly or annually. That gets you access to OTR, the C4 sticker. And I know, Sean, I owe you a sticker. I got to figure out how to get that to you. But if you're like, nah, you know what? I can't do it monthly. I can't do it, but here is like a one-time contribution. We take that too. Those are the pints. Buy us as many pints as you would like. I could probably drink them all and still not recover with the stress that I dealt with the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's for sure. But yeah, we appreciate any and all support.
But Anna, what are we going to be talking about this week?
Yeah, in the absence of too much Canucks news, of course, the coaching carousel goes round and round. Some of the spots get filled, some of them remain open. The Calder Cup playoffs continue, and Abbotsford Canucks are still in, so that's very exciting.
How about them Canucks?
Yeah, exactly. She loves in the playoffs.
There's playoffs she lost.
Yeah.
There ain't no other version.
And of course, the NHL continues to. I mean, the playoffs continue, but also just continues to NHL and disappoint us in various ways. So much to talk about. And of course, also the draft. The draft lottery happened, so that is another disappointment to add to the list.
Yeah. Just to put in perspective, Anna puts these rundowns together for our shows. And a few days ago, she posts, just as a quick preview, the podcast rundown is currently only the F word section. That just should sum up the couple of weeks that were.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Anyhow, let's get into Rewind. So the NHL quarter century team has been announced. It's, to be honest, an experience that is not, I want to say uniquely NHL, but how the NHL approaches it is uniquely NHL. Is that a way? Like it's fan voted, kinda.
Yeah.
It
has all these like rules and regulations in order to get who the NHL want to get in.
Pretty much, yeah. Like they define sort of, it's like a pick'em board, but they get to pick who gets to the board, and then when it comes down to sort of the fan voting and what have you, it works in mysterious ways. So Roberto Luongo, he made the quarter century team. Now, I was actually thinking about Roberto Luongo earlier today because it occurs to me that there are some teams in the NHL playoffs that are stellar teams. If only they had goaltending. In that, the Vancouver Canucks in 2011, they had goaltending. There's no argument.
Yeah.
Roberto Luongo was a goaltender.
He was quite a
pretty good one when he was good. But he made the team. You also need some solid defensemen. And the Vancouver Canucks in their current iteration have probably the best defenseman in the league. Did not make the team. Must be too young.
Yeah. It's hard to say because it's just like he is the most complete defenseman in the NHL right now. And obviously I'll have Abs fans fighting me on that. But to me he is. And I think there's no doubt that he will go down as such, but like trying to earmark him as that so quote unquote early into his career, I think the NHL don't like that.
Yeah. The thing about this though, and I have to ask, is there a belief out there, because I'm a jaded Canucks fan, that Quinn Hughes is a flash in the pan? Like we see him night in and night out. This is a guy who last season won the Norris Trophy clean and has a good chance at winning it again this season, despite missing a good portion of it and playing on a team that wasn't that good.
Yeah. I mean, he's not going to win the Norris.
No, but
Kel McCarr once more will win the Norris, but like,
But the point is, he's in the conversation
for sure.
Like, if he had had a full season, not only is he in the conversation, the Canucks are likely in the playoffs. As scary as that might be.
But weirdly, I
They
think
may not still be in the playoffs, but they would have been in the playoffs.
yeah. And weirdly, I do think that Quinn's injury actually made him more of a conversation for the Hart, which once again, of course, he won't win. But like,
No, because he didn't score enough goals.
I mean, yeah, he's not in the finalist category. But like, yeah, him getting injured actually weirdly gave him more of an argument for that. But yeah.
Anyhow, whatever. I mean, we have Quinn for at least 2 more years, maybe. I say that because we're going to get into a conversation around the future in a moment. Draft lottery occurred as you had let off. The Vancouver Canucks did not move whatsoever. Though, people did notice that a win that the Vancouver Canucks got, where they came back from what should have been a loss. Was it the
Dallas game? Yeah.
Yeah, that ultimately meant that the Vancouver Canucks shifted a spot in the lottery and could have been Utah.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't subscribe to the oh my God, they should have lost that game. You don't, I get it. Like when I talk about draft position, like, oh man, look, you moved up a couple of spots. That is all it is. And I talk about how, in the context of the lottery, you have a bigger chance to win. But I'm not thinking the Canucks ever will, so.
Yeah, I mean, what is it? They're one of 5 teams to not improve their draft position in the draft lottery era.
Mm-hmm. The Vancouver Canucks should have the first overall pick going into the lottery. They wouldn't get it.
Yeah, I mean, New York Islanders, I mean, can you think of a more deserving team? Ugh. I mean, it's not the same as Chicago, don't get me wrong, getting the overall pick. I do not think that, but like, a team that's had Lou Lamoriello as their GM, who is like one of the most regressive leaders in modern hockey, it was just like, okay. But there's a Long Island boy on the board, so good luck with that. That always seems to work out really well for the Canucks, picking local talent.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. The thing about the draft, though, not that deep. So there is some scuttlebutt. The Vancouver Canucks could potentially look to move their pick to, in turn, acquire a player that makes them better. Now,
I would be shocked and shooketh if they picked at 15th.
I honestly don't even know what 15 gets you.
Not a lot.
15 and something or something else that could get you something back.
Sorry, yeah. 100%. Like, if Canucks want to improve this offseason, and they desperately need to improve, they're going to have to give up something of value. And that means Tom Willander, Elias Pettersson.
Hey, they have to sign Tom Willander first. That still hasn't occurred.
Yeah.
I guess they could trade the rights to Tom Willander. Could they do that? Like,
I'm not sure.
He's not yet a pro. So do they have rights to him yet?
I'm not sure how that would
Outside
work.
of the right to sign him?
Yeah.
Because if they don't sign him, eventually he goes back in the draft.
Yeah, yes. I mean, like, presumably he would sign somewhere else. But, yeah, our friends at Canucks Conversations suggested that the Canucks are selling the Rogers Arena old maroon seats in order to fund Tom Willander's signing bonus.
So let's open the door here. The seats are going black. They finally started installing them. We had a conversation as to whether or not it's a fever dream because, by the way, the Vancouver Canucks social media account or X account, hacks. Don't buy, Canuck Bitcoin. Families big fans of Elon or whatever. No,
honestly, but like the fact that some people are like, I mean, I don't think this is real, but maybe.
No, that's genuinely.
There was a moment where I was like,
genuinely something with how the Vancouver Canucks as an organization operate that you'd be like, because the hackers, they did a heck of a job at creating like the Canucks. That
was a straight up Mr. Booth job.
Yeah, honestly, better than Booth, and that says something. Better than Booth. No, it was top notch hackery. I shouldn't be promoting hackers.
No, probably not.
But oh gosh. So anyhow, we're not entirely sure if the black seats are actually real yet. but they probably are. They're selling the maroon seats at $50 a pop right now.
If and apparently it's your own seat, which I didn't quite realize.
So if season ticket holders don't pony up the cash, what are they doing with the spare seats?
I guess they might go on to general auction or something, but yeah.
Because the team has said that money goes to charity, and there are laws around that.
So the idea is that you donate $50 to Canucks for Kids Fund, and you get to keep your seat, which is kind of cool in a way. I don't know. I kind of love this and off the rails. Sorry already. And I'm sure I've told this story either here or OTR before, but my mum gave up the chance to have a piece of the Lord's scorebox. Lord's being the most famous cricket ground in the world.
Like a piece, like just a tiny piece?
Well, she could have... So she is a sculptor. Her fabricator had just done the Lord's scorebox, the new one. So they had the old one, and they basically were like, you want some? She could have taken as much as she wanted. So I could have had a piece of history, and I don't.
She didn't. Well, hi, Anna's mom.
Yeah, hi, Mom.
Yeah, no, the seats are going to charity, or the money that you use to buy the seats are going to charity. Hopefully the seats aren't going to charity. There are laws around this. There's someone like, why would you do this? The family gets a tax deduction. No. When you say, if you pay this and this goes to charity, you can't go and claim that on your own taxes. It's functionally not possible. Now, if the family were to sell the seats and then say a portion of this goes to charity after the fact, that's theirs to, tax deduction as they see fit. So it's as much as the Vancouver Canucks organization does some stuff.
Yeah, and they're shady as hell.
This isn't that stuff.
Yeah, and I don't know if this has presumably happened since our last podcast that Paolo Alcolini stepped down. Which also known as the sensible Aquilini.
Yeah. So, okay. There was rumors going on. Well, meanwhile, Anna and I were trying to put out podcast fire. Rumors that the Vancouver Canucks might be for sale. What's likely occurred is the family approached an organization to get a valuation of the team because Paolo Aquilini was withdrawing from the ownership group. Not like stepping back from active, like, no, man, I'm pulling the chute. Now, that would mean the remaining portion of the family would have to buy out his share, or, hear me out, the possibility exists that his share could be for sale.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
Anyhow, Paulo is piecing out. One of the three brothers. We've sort of talked about it, I think, on the show. Like, we talk about Francesco as being the guy. It's actually, the dad, Luigi. Luigi makes all the big calls, make decisions. It's all Luigi. Francesco just happens to be the face, the one who's more involved in the day-to-day. But Paulo, Roberto, and Luigi
also
very much involved.
Don't be on
Paulo, not anymore.
Any illusions. It's very much a family-run business, and I hate to indulge in stereotypes, but Vancouver is basically run, especially the construction and property side, run by 5 Italian families, and kind of
the Gallardis,
the Bosa
Stars, Bosa, Lenny,
that's
Beatty.
There's a few.
I don't know. I don't know how many are any of the Italian heritage,
but a few of them are.
But there are families. They're families.
Yeah, and that kind of run a lot of Vancouver and how it gets developed and built and all of that. So the Aquilinis definitely will give their family a leg up. So if you're a random cousin, as we have seen in the past, you can be among the Canucks staff.
Cool. Tocchet not coming back. Okay. I'd like to say I'm surprised and shocked. I think had we recorded this after that news had broken, I would have been surprised and shocked. Now, the Vancouver Canucks, specifically Jim Rutherford, tried to play it up as if Tocchet wants to go back east. Well, guess what? Anaheim hired a coach. Tocchet was in the mix. The hot rumor is Seattle needs a coach and wants Tocchet. And ultimately, Tocchet is being interviewed by all the teams. West, East,
Yeah.
somewhere in between.
I mean, who is to say? But I get the impression that he said no to Seattle, rather than Seattle saying no to him.
But the point is, though, if he was in the mix with Anaheim,
Yeah.
and that,
But also,
I mean,
like, what?
I'd like to think Rick has looked at a map and knows that Anaheim is on the west. Not
Yes. Oh, and I'm not saying that it didn't play into it, but like his girlfriend's from Vegas. Like that's where he lives in the summer. I don't know
close
if
to Anaheim. Just hop in the car.
if he's
Go for a
that
drive.
bothered about where he needs. He wanted to move on.
Yeah, I don't know who it was who asked the question to Jim Rutherford during this press conference where Jim Rutherford had to share some very disappointing news. That's Tocchet's gone. Have you talked to Quinn Hughes yet? No, I tried to, but he didn't answer. I hope he's on the golf course.
Like,
The scary part is then it comes out that, well, Tocchet, as part of making his decision, had talked to Quinn Hughes. Quinn knew. Quinn Hughes, who we talked about, is like, they bring Tocchet back. Quinn likes Tocchet. Everything's around Quinn. Quinn knew and did not answer the phone when Jim called.
but it's just like there's been different reactions to Jim Rutherford's style in the media, and I know a lot of media like it because he's very honest, but as a fan, it's kind of embarrassing sometimes, and it's like, oh, I'm not really that worried about whether you're giving up, negotiating room. It's more the fact that you are embarrassing us on a daily basis.
Well, so I like the transparency when it's, here's what went into our decisions, and this is the thought process. Here's the pieces getting put together. Where I'm a little apprehensive about the transparency is when you start saying the quiet stuff out loud.
Like, we're on no one's number one, destination on free agency. Like, yeah, everyone knows that, but don't say that out loud.
Well, there was a conversation on Canucks Reddit about this, and like, there's a perspective, I'm not going to knock it, that the media and the fake media, as I think you and I get called on occasion.
Cool.
That we're trying to,
Want it to be fake media.
We're trying to stir the pot, so to speak. The Canucks as an organization and their front office.
Yeah. Most of the time you don't need to do anything.
They're pretty good at it. Like, the fact that we're talking about this is because they just tee it up. They throw it all out there. It's like a buffet. Like, are we to ignore it? Are we to well, there's nothing happening in here? It's just weird. I can't believe I'm going to say this, and I kind of wish this team was boring.
Oh, yeah.
I want
wouldn't
exciting
give
on ice play, but everything off the ice, boring.
Yeah, like, honestly, it's frustrating because under Jim Benning, we were obviously a joke in terms of, agents, in terms of other general managers. Like, you can fleece the Canucks very easily. And I don't think that's the case now, but I still think, like, yes, there's people that see things that are seriously wrong with Vancouver, and yeah, I understand that perspective.
As far as sort of who's going to be coaching here in Vancouver, the conversation is still taking place. It won't be Sullivan. He, mutually agreed to leave Pittsburgh and then mutually agreed to hang out with the Rangers. He's not bringing Tortorella on his staff. So maybe Torts is coming back to Vancouver for round 2.
Can you imagine? I mean, like, all the best to Sully in New York.
Torts is not coming back.
No, 100%. But, like, I wouldn't take that job if I was Mike Sullivan. But at the same time, he's definitely getting well compensated. That's not an issue. They are not nickel and diming things over there. But yeah, that's not exactly a team that's in a good state. But yes. No.
Not to come here.
I know, but like Canucks, who are we looking at? I think they're trying to balance the sort of NHL experience, AHL, like.
And oh, by the way, how much they actually have to pay the guy.
Yes, which, of course, nickel and diming, Canucks very familiar with that term, but like Manny Malhotra is obviously in the conversation.
I loved Manny. Let him cook in the egg.
That's my instinct too. Like, obviously he's been behind 2 NHL benches, so Sorry, I just swore at you there. So, two NHL benches. I flipped my fingers around the wrong way there, but
okay. That's okay. I get it. I mean, I'm number one in your world.
okay. So it's not like he doesn't have NHL experience, but I just think he could do so much good in Abbotsford and develop even more strongly.
So you think about like the timeline. I had sort of presumed that if the Vancouver Canucks hadn't turned things around, that Tocchet would have been gone next season. Like they wouldn't go and extend him to let him go. But then they made the decision not to keep him if he didn't want to be here. If they bring in another coach, I have to think Malhotra likely doesn't last in Abbey to then become the coach in Vancouver at a later date. I just don't see that potentially happening unless they were to get like a one and an option or something like that. Like
it seemed
Bruce
it
Boudreau
seems
special.
unless I mean, like we've talked about Adam Foote before, like
There's some thought that he might stick around. You're right.
but he's not sticking it.
Who
You would
wants to be here.
you would think that Adam Foote doesn't stick around as a defense coach to a new
I'm
head
talking
coach.
about-
Yes.
Yeah.
He
as
only
head
as a head coach. Otherwise, he's moving to wherever Rick Tocchet is coaching.
Yes.
Marco Sturm just got eliminated from the Calder Cup playoffs with Ontario. Like Mitch Love is an option. There's no one that's just like leaps out of me as the number one choice, and like maybe Manny is the closest. Like Mitch Love obviously like has great recent experience in Washington, but again, it wasn't as a head coach. But we're not number one on anyone's list, so
No, probably not number two either.
yeah. And maybe we should use that to transition into the job Manny is doing right now, which is a really great one. Like Abbotsford are now into round 3 of the playoffs, which is further than they've ever been before. Yes, they haven't been around that long, but
Coachella Valley
Firebirds.
Thank you.
Yeah. I mean,
Seattle's.
I didn't know Coachella was a real place.
Well,
until
you just thought it was a concert.
Yeah.
That's because the concert's held in Coachella Valley.
Yeah, no, I get it now, but like until they moved an AHL team there, I was like,
So I knew it was a place. I would concede that I didn't know it was big enough to have a rink.
I mean, I think it might be like nearby. Although Coachella Valley's probably a region rather than a town, so maybe.
I don't know. Anyhow. The point is, the Abbey Canucks knocked him out.
She loves shuts out, and Coachella like were decent, but like
Loves, yeah.
exactly. And I'd love to report that all the young players that are gonna be in the bottom end of the Canucks lineup next year are the ones leading the charge, but unfortunately that's not the case. I would say the big players in the playoffs have been Captain Chase Waters, Nate
Sign
Smith.
that man to a deal.
Nate Smith. Who else? Jujar Carrot. Jujar Kara, who's like
I think he's got
veteran.
a Canucks contract.
I mean, maybe, but like he's like
Chase don't, but Jujar I think does. I could be wrong.
Stanley Cup champion Sammy Blais. But like again, those people are like Sammy and Judar's like they are on the older end of the spectrum. They've kind of been there, done that in the NHL. Tristan
They've done that, doing it again.
Doing it in the AHL. Tristan Nielsen, Nate Smith. Like Mancini's been good. We have to say that. Like I think Archdeep Baines, who was the leading scorer in the regular season, maybe, has really not done much. He scored a goal in their sort of 5-0 blowout in round 1, but hasn't done a whole pile. Linus Carlson's been okay, like to good, but I definitely, if I had to pick someone, it would probably be like Chase Waters or Kudryavtsev or Nate Smith. So, it's still exciting to watch. There's been some really great games, And Manny Malhotra, I have to say, is doing a really great job, including pulling Shilovs when he was struggling, inspiring a comeback, but then throwing him in as the start of the next game. So, yeah, I think he's doing a pretty good job, but whether that's NHL readiness or not, I don't know.
Before we wrap up Rewind, we'd be remiss to not mention that the fact that the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs are well underway.
Oh,
they were
right.
underway 2 weeks ago, but like as I tell people, Canucks are out, hockey's dead to me, I've moved on. So if you are like me, you're curious what's happened. Well, in round one, Ottawa, Tampa, Montreal, and New Jersey got knocked out in the East. St. Louis, Colorado, Minnesota, and the LA Kings got knocked out in the West. That has Winnipeg taking on Dallas, Vegas taking on Edmonton, Toronto, Florida, and Carolina, Washington. Toronto, Florida is going to be turning itself into an interesting series. We're going to talk a little bit more about that one in the F word. They're tied 2-2, so it's best of three. Edmonton was finding ways to win. They were up 2-0 in the series. They lost on an own goal at 0.4 seconds left in the third period to give Vegas their first win of the series.
I only saw that they were scored on the last second, so I already found that funny. But when I realized that it was a goal that went in off the camera, so no one even realized it was a goal at first, I found that even funnier.
And then Dallas is up 2-1 on the Jets. When we get back together in 2 weeks' time, Carolina 2 on Washington.
Yeah, well, that series and the hockey played in it is inconsequential.
Yeah. When we get back together in 2 weeks' time, we'll be talking about the Western and Eastern Conference Finals. I can't imagine any of those series would still be going on in 2 weeks. I don't think it's conceivable. I don't care if I have to look at the schedule either. But that's that. There you go. You're listening to the C4 Canucks Hockey Podcast, brought to you by Anna and Chris.
He liked to say the F word.
Oh, then get the here then. Okay, see ya.
Is going to have the F word on it.
I wish I could give you an explanation about it. I can't. You, out of here.
You said the F word, Dad.
You called me the F word.
If you happen to be watching the Toronto, Florida series, you probably already know that there was a collision between Bennett of the Florida Panthers and Stolarz of the Toronto Maple Leafs that resulted in Stolarz, I don't know how to position this, getting pulled from the game. It was Sam Bennett accidentally on purpose colliding with Stolarz. Stolarz' head hits the post, goes down, gets... trainers out. They decide we're gonna take you to the bench. On the bench, he then starts puking his guts out and had to be helped into the back. At which point, he is then stretchered into an ambulance. Off to the hospital he goes. And the Maple Leafs, after that game, were saying that he hasn't been ruled out for the next one. Stolarz is not even on the ice. Like, he is dealing with a pretty severe concussion. I don't think. The whole puking his guts out on the bench, off into a stretcher, into the ambulance, and off to the hospital he goes, indicates that he was just dealing with an upset tum-tum.
Yeah, so to go further into it, because I'm sure people will be saying, well, he didn't get the concussion from the Sam Bennett hit, he got it from taking apart the helmet. So we actually don't know. One could assume that the puck to the helmet was the first blow and the Sam Bennett one was the second blow. The concussion spotters did not take him out after the first puck to the head, even though, from expert opinion, he was exhibiting signs of concussion already. The NHL don't necessarily agree with the doctors, shocking, about the signs of the concussions that concussion spotters should be using, which is insane, as we know. The Sam Bennett hit was not a penalty. He was not punished by the league. And a lot of people are saying, well, read the rule book. That's not against the rules. I think that's a definite argument to be made. I think it's a troubling one, though.
Well, when I say accidentally on purpose, if you watch the replay, was he clearly going towards Stolarz? No, but the moment contact was made on him,
to me,
this is slippery.
Yeah, to me, it doesn't matter that it should be ruled as, like, the hit to the head should be punished in a way.
Oh, no, I don't disagree.
Yes, 100%. But, like, and anyone, like, we've talked about this before when it came to the Luke Trennan punching Derek Forbort when he was defenseless. Like, people saying that it's not against the rules. Change the rules.
Hockey play.
Like, how quickly
It's
did
totally
they change the rules when Sean Avery embarrassed the NHL? Like, overnight. Like, you can change the rules. But to me, I'm not saying either that the referees failed or player safety failed necessarily in that instance, but really, like, they are failing because they're failing to protect the players. And they're failing Sam Bennett as well, because lots of people talk about how people want Sam Bennett on their team because he's, like, treads the line. Mm-hmm. But how the hell does he know where the line is? Because he's been permitted to make increasingly dangerous plays and not be punished for them. So, of course, he's going to keep going and making that play. And to me, that's troubling. So I think there's two very concerning things that happened with the Stolarz, and that's the fail of concussion spotters and the failure of NHL rules and the safety committee to protect players.
Yeah. I'll use Major League Soccer as an example. Major League Soccer, their concussion spotters, the moment a player is presumed to be dealing with a concussion, that player is off the pitch. Now, Major League Soccer recognizes in a substitution or restricted substitution league that a team should not be punished if they were to lose a player due to concussion protocol, so then the team is provided a substitute to bring another player in. I know if your top player gets pulled due to concussion protocol, you're likely not getting an equal caliber player brought in. But the point is that it's about protecting the players and their long-term health.
Right.
I don't see how the NHL couldn't implement something like that. Like in Major League Soccer, that player, if they get withdrawn, they can't go back in. But the NHL, all they have to do is say, we're going to bring them to the bench. They got to go into, like the NFL. I mean, this is talk about a league that, disputes science. They require a player to go in to the choir room for 5 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, cricket, like, any time a player is struck on the helmet, even if it's, like, a glancing blow to, like, your grill, whatever, like, they have to go through a concussion test before they're allowed to continue batting.
And the thing about this is that why is it that a concussion protocol exists in the way that it does, that it's so severe? It's because if you are experiencing concussion, you are at significant risk of debilitating head trauma should you receive another blow to the head. That first one, when you would hear the terms, it really rung my bell, could actually be a minor concussion, one that you recover from quickly. But while your bell is quote unquote rung and is ringing, if you experience another one, that second one could be catastrophic. Like the severity could be exponential. Yes. You were at such a significant risk. And to the point with Stolarz, was where he was, we don't know, but that Sam Bennett collision is not helpful in any way, shape, or form, and is a contributing factor to what he was already probably dealing with. And if he isn't, this is where it sort of gets in, like, here's a player who clearly cleared out the crease, going through player and post, and that player is likely done for the foreseeable future.
And to me, I almost don't have a problem with what the refs did on the night. And
I don't think it's a referee's
because
job.
Of
there
how
should be someone.
Yeah, to me, I kind of think player safety's job is to step in where, like, refs on the night have either failed or can't really act, and endangering players, like, as an NHL ref, you're not taking in player history, right? Whereas player safety is.
in the moment. That's
and
like where you
danger
say
to a
there are-
player. Yeah.
where there are no rules, the referee can't make them up.
Yeah.
Right? And that's, to me, you can't falter. Like if it was, he took a stick, he swung it, cracked it over top of his head, no call. That's on the referees. That's not what transpired.
Yeah.
And anyone who were to argue, well, what he did was not against the rules, you know what? If that's true, the referee can't be held,
Yeah.
Which is to account.
Fine.
But that's where you have someone elevated who does see this, and specifically to Stolarz and sort of in the context of concussion control or protocol, that needs to exist in a more substantial form.
Yes, I agree. But yeah, what do we expect from a league that won't acknowledge the link between blows to the head and CTE? Like,
no matter how many former NHL enforcers who willingly donate their brain posthumously to science where it's proven, oh yeah, this player has experienced a significant degree of CTE.
yeah.
No, not us. Could be anything. Like seriously, there's a lot of things that you're seeing which could be true because so much happened in their lives.
Yeah.
But very coincidental, huh?
Yeah. And actually, JT Brown, who's ex-NHL and current Kraken broadcaster, has said that he's going to donate his brain to science after he passes. And hopefully...
JT Brown is good
Nothing else
people.
for- yeah.
His wife is good people too. That's just, that family are good people.
For sure. But yeah, hopefully that makes some waves. But yeah, it's troubling.
Speaking of the NHL and not changing their ways, the Anaheim Ducks have hired Joel Quenneville to be their new head coach. If you're wondering why that might be an issue, well, Joel Quenneville was the head coach of the Chicago Blackhawks when the Blackhawks felt that winning a Stanley Cup was more important than the safety of their players in the context of having a predator on staff. And Joel has stated he was either ignorant, he wasn't aware of the severity of the issue with Ryan Beach, or not Ryan Beach,
Kyle Beach.
Kyle Beach, thank you.
Spelled
Sorry.
differently as well.
Yeah, sorry, Beecher. Ryan Beach, friend of the show, sorry, Kyle Beach. But
I mean, one, we know that's substantially not true because the Block Jenner report showed that he was instrumental in deciding what happened. And not only that, he wrote the letter of recommendation for Brad Aldrich. He went on to assault an underage child.
Yeah. I was going to say, I struggle to see how, like, if I take him at his word that he was completely ignorant, I struggle to see how that's even possible.
It's not. I mean, you would have failed your duty as a coach if that were possible. And we just know it's not. Like, there have been conversations reported. We know that he and John Donaghy, is that his name? Were instrumental in deciding the direction of travel for that. And I'm not sure that there is any way to come back from that. Even
well,
if
the NHL, they did them a severe punishment of 3 years suspension, which the suspension expired a year or so ago. Mm-hmm. And Joel Quenneville was punished because he wasn't hired immediately as a new head coach.
Like, that's insane to me. So I don't think as a person there is any way you come back from that, no matter what work you do in the meantime, to be redeemable in my eyes. But like...
So the Anaheim Ducks have said they have investigated it thoroughly, and they truly believe that Joel has learned his lessons based on the work that he has done.
Which what
work has he done? This is the part.
There's that's not like been reported. It's
I was talking to a friend about Quenneville being hired, and I had sort of said, like, what work? He's like, well, what do you mean he's done work? I'm like, well, this is an entirely different situation, but I remember when I was in high school, the RCMP had a presentation about driving under the influence, and there was this guest speaker with them, and the guest speaker was telling the story, and gets to this point where this catastrophic incident occurred. I believe someone I can't remember the story in its entirety. Someone didn't survive. He was behind the wheel, and he said, I did this. This was me. I made the decision. This is what's occurred. And this is the least that I can do to make it right. And I can't. Like, he acknowledged there's nothing in the world that he could do to make this right. But the fact that he was there on the stage admitting that, and he'd been doing this for however long, like he wasn't a young kid on stage. I remember that. And I'm sure, others have had sort of situations where they've been in an experience where someone has talked about, something that they have done and their actions have contributed to something catastrophic. But they're publicly saying, here's the work that I'm doing, and it's not enough.
Yeah.
But what Joel Quenneville did was apparently work that we don't need to know about because whose business is it? It's not us. But it was good enough.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't mean to completely dismiss the idea of rehabilitation. I actually do believe in that. People can learn and change, and but
it would be so easy for Joel to go and say, here's everything that I've done. It's still not enough. Here's what I'm going to be continuing to do.
Yeah, and to me, even then, it's just like getting to coach. There's 32 head coaching jobs in the NHL. Like, why does he get one of them? Like,
he's a good coach, Anna.
The bare minimum to be existing in this world and out of jail is doing that work.
He's a good coach.
Maybe he is, but
everyone deserves a second chance.
Yeah, he's not in jail. That's your second chance.
Whoa, that's a little extreme.
Yeah, maybe it is. But it's just insane to me. It's just the fact that we are 2 issues deep into the F word, and we're not even covering the ongoing sexual assault trial in London right now. But it is tied together. The fact that victims of sexual assault are treated as less than, and then definitely not as important as good hockey coaches or good hockey players or cup runs, or they are disposable in the eyes of the NHL, and that's pretty terrifying place to be.
Yeah. I wish I had the answers. Right? I mean, I don't. I'm very clear. And if anyone out there thinks they do, well, I'm willing to listen to them. I kind of don't think you do either. And I don't mean you, Anna. I mean you in the general sense. But the small things that could be done that could have significant impact, that's what I think frustrates me the most.
Right.
Like, why is it that these small things can't be, enforced or adhered to? Like the Quenneville situation. Why can't Joel share what he's done?
Yeah, to me, I could write a 20-point plan for the NHL on just small things they could do in order to promote a better image in terms of, sexual assault, how, this is a league, and we've said this, I think we probably said this 2 weeks ago, this is a league without a domestic violence policy.
It's not a problem in the NHL.
Domestic violence offenders, sexual assault offenders continue to have jobs in hockey. The fact that people complain about cancel culture when Joel Quenneville has a job in the NHL, when, Stan Bowman has a job in the NHL.
Yeah.
When people testifying in the sexual assault trial have to leave early to go to their NHL playoff games,
Yeah,
they're not even doing the bare minimum.
You and I have talked about our thoughts in the context of cancel culture. We're both firm believers of consequence culture. There are consequences. Cancellation is one of many consequences that exist.
Yeah, and unfortunately, not enough.
No. And, yeah, I don't know. It sucks that we have an F-word segment where we have to talk about this. Where,
yes,
here you and I could potentially be celebrating the fact that Joel Quenneville is not the coach of the Vancouver Canucks.
Which I am grateful for.
Mm-hmm. But Like that imagine if that wasn't even necessary.
We should say, in relation to our earlier discussion about coaches, that if Adam Foote becomes the Canucks head coach, and there is no statement regarding Cal Foote and his involvement, like,
Well, there won't be a statement.
Like, that's super gross too.
No, there won't be a statement.
There hasn't been acknowledged yet, so.
Yeah. Oh man, if only the league would change. Just those small things. Mm-hmm. We're not asking for a lot here. Anyhow, here we are, end of a show. We'll be back in 2 weeks' time, as we sort of talked about at the start of the show. This summer sort of off-season schedule gives us nice breaks in between, but I can appreciate it. Leaves you without the two of us and the small community that likes to follow along. I also apologize again that this community that follows us had their podcasting listening experience disrupted due to the fault of our previous network post that we no longer are a part of. We are fully independent. This is the Anna and Chris show. If you hear us reading ads, it's because we've sold our soul.
And we welcome that.
Yes, souls.
We welcome
are
our
for
new
sale.
overlords.
I was actually thinking, like, if we were to sort of, figure out the cost that it would be to cover, like, hosting all that, we could sell a sponsorship where I would be more than willing to say, you're listening to the C4 Canucks Hockey Podcast, brought to you by fill in the blank.
Yeah. We have very much for sale.
Yeah. This is Anna and Chris broadcasting live from the fill in the blank studios.
We'd love it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But, I'm not a hustle guy. That was never my thing. I'm more the community guy.
Yeah, I just like the sound of my own voice.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's why I talk. But Anna, if our listeners wanted to contribute a few pints our way to, help us get through those stressful times, they can go to buymeacoffee.com/C4podcast. Buy me a coffee, which we call
Buy me a pint.
And you can either contribute a few pints individually, or if you were to sign up to our monthly or annual support options, you also get access to C4 Off the Rails. It is a supporter-only show. They're 15, 20-minute episodes. You and I are going to be recording one in a moment. It is full of hijinks, full fun, mostly light, sometimes serious. I mean, we are who we are when we talk about things. The last OTR, still supporters only, but over the next week or so, it's going to be available to all. So if you are curious, hey, what is this OTR business like? You'll be able to listen to that one. There's also one already available, an older episode of C4 Off the Rails, where you can just sort of, what is it that the pair talk about. And they do get published regularly, presuming I remember to do the work. Mm-hmm. It's part of the problem. When I'm busy, that stuff falls to the side. I apologize for that. That's on me completely. But we are caught up. All the episodes are out there. So to Sean, Neil, Anna's mom, I hope you're listening. I hope you're enjoying it. Go to buymeacoffee.com/C4podcast. C4podcast.com, our website, back up and running. Our feed, our entire back catalog is available there. And then the socials, we're on all of them. We just, heaven forbid, have a consistent name. On X, we're at the C4 Podcast. On Threads, we're the Real C4 Podcast. On Blue Sky, we're at C4podcast.com.
There you go.
Yeah, but Anna, any final words of wisdom or inspiration to share this week?
The PWHL playoffs are also in full strike.
I saw that they had their first quad overtime.
Yes, so Montreal, Ottawa, after Ottawa scored with a minute left to tie up the game, they went to 4 overtimes before Montreal broke the deadlock. So
I've been to a 4 overtime game.
Yeah, you have. So that was exciting, I'm sure, for the people in Montreal who went and spent like 6 hours at a hockey game.
Considering that it's 2 full games and then some.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Oh, and we should also mention Seattle got a PWHL franchise in the last 2 weeks.
Yes, the worst kept secret in women's hockey.
Mm-hmm. Final words of wisdom from me. Make sure when you go to your kids' sporting events that despite it being the spring or summer, take a sweater or jacket with you and make sure that they do, because you never know what type of weather you're going to have to coach and play softball in. Last week, my daughter had the experience of enjoying sunshine, followed by big winds, followed by rain, followed by hail, followed by rain and hail, followed by winds. And me being the horrible father did not ensure that she had a sweater or jacket to put on. So I had to give her my sweater, which
that
worked
is
as a great
springtime
blanket.
in the lower mainland.
I mean, it was all that in a bag of chips. If we had snow, I would not have been shocked. It was weird. Anyhow, on behalf of Anna, A4603, myself, Chris at Light Force, I'm going to sign off this episode with We Out.